I never thought 853 souls could weigh so much until that night over the Indian Ocean. My name is Robert Anderson, and for 22 years I've had the privilege of commanding commercial aircraft, from small regional turboprops to the most sophisticated wide-bodies. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compares to the responsibility of being at the controls of an Airbus A380. It's not just the size that's impressive, it's the 853 people who trust you to take them safely from one point on the planet to another. It was a Tuesday in October when I received the assignment for flight QF1, London to Sydney. 21 hours of flight time, crossing half the world with the largest passenger aircraft ever built. The A380 is a masterpiece of engineering. 4 Rolls-Royce Trent 900 engines, 2 complete decks, 550 tons of metal flying at 900 kilometers per hour. For many, it's just a giant airplane. For me, it's a responsibility I carry in my chest with every takeoff. That morning I arrived at Heathrow Airport 3 hours before the scheduled time. It's my ritual. Review all flight documentation, check weather conditions, study navigation charts, and most importantly, get intimately familiar with the aircraft I'm about to command. The A380 registration G-XLIB was scheduled to depart at 21:45 local time, with arrival planned for 5:30 in Sydney the next day. During the briefing, my first officer, Captain Michael Thompson, a veteran with 15 years of A380 experience, accompanied me in analyzing the data. "Favorable weather conditions throughout the route," he commented, adjusting his glasses while checking the information on the tablet. "Tailwind over the Atlantic should give us about 20 minutes advantage." The cabin crew was led by Chief Flight Attendant Sarah Williams, an exemplary professional who knew every inch of that aircraft. 24 flight attendants distributed across both decks, all properly trained to handle any eventuality. The A380 demands perfect coordination between all departments, from the flight deck to the last seat in economy class. At 18:30, I began the external inspection of the aircraft. Walking around an A380 is a unique experience. You really feel the magnitude of what you're about to command. It's 73 meters wingspan, 24 meters height, and when fully loaded, weighs 560 tons. Each Trent 900 engine develops 70,000 pounds of thrust, enough power to supply a small city. I checked every control surface, every landing gear opening, every pitot tube. The A380 has 22 wheels on the main landing gear, distributed across 6 assemblies, plus 2 on the nose gear. It's a complex system that allows this colossal mass to touch the ground smoothly. At 19:45, already positioned in the cockpit, I began the startup procedures. The instrument panel of an A380 is a symphony of technology. 6 high-resolution LCD screens, hundreds of buttons, switches, and indicators. Everything designed to give the pilot complete control over every aircraft system. "Tower, Qantas 001 requesting startup," I transmitted to the control tower. "Qantas 001 tower, startup approved, squawk 7705, came the clear response in the headset. The startup of an A380 is an almost ritualistic ceremony. 4 engines that need to be started in specific sequence, dozens of systems that must be verified and confirmed. The APU, auxiliary power unit, was already running, providing electrical power and pressurized air for the entire aircraft. "Engine Master 1 on," I announced, starting the first engine. Trent 900 number 1 began to spin slowly, the characteristic sound of the compressor gradually growing until stabilizing at idle. One after another, the 4 engines came to life, each one a small power plant controlled by computers that monitor thousands of parameters per second. At 20:30, we began pushback. Watching an A380 being pushed back is impressive. It takes 2 tugs working in synchronization, and even then the process is slow and deliberate. In the control tower, the air traffic controller was probably watching our progress with the same admiration I felt every time I commanded this machine. "Ground, Qantas 001, ready to taxi," I transmitted, after completing the post-startup checks. "Qantas 001 ground, taxi via Alpha Bravo, hold short of runway 27 left," came the clearance. Taxiing an A380 requires double attention. The aircraft is so large it occupies almost the entire width of the taxiway, and the wingtips pass dangerously close to any obstacle. Heathrow was redesigned specifically to accommodate the A380, but even so, every movement must be calculated with millimetric precision. During taxi, I performed the final checks. Hydraulic systems, 3 independent systems, each operating at 5,000 psi. Electrical systems, 2 generators per engine plus the APU and backup batteries. Fuel systems, capacity for 320,000 liters distributed across 11 separate tanks. Everything was perfectly normal. At 2140, lined up on runway 27L, I received final clearance. Qantas 001 tower, wind 270 at 15, runway 27 left, cleared for takeoff. Cleared for takeoff, runway 27 left, Qantas 001, I confirmed. The takeoff of a fully loaded A380 is a pure demonstration of applied physics. I positioned the 4 thrust levers to toga position, takeoff, go around, and the engines responded with a roar that could be heard for miles. 280,000 pounds of thrust, pushing 560 tons of metal down the runway. V1, announced Thompson, indicating decision speed. Rotate, he continued upon reaching VR. I gently pulled the side stick back, and the giant began to lift off. It's always a magical moment, something so heavy defying gravity with elegance. At 2147 we were airborne, beginning a journey that would take us across 3 continents. The initial climb was perfect. The A380 climbed at a smooth but constant angle, the engines operating in perfect synchronization. At 2215, we were already at cruise level FL 370, 37,000 feet, flying at Mach 0.85 over the English Channel. London Control, Qantas 001, level 370, I reported. Qantas 001, London Control, roger. Contact Paris Control on 128.90. The transition to French airspace was smooth. For the next 2 hours, we flew over nighttime Europe, city lights creating a glittering carpet below. The autopilot kept the aircraft perfectly stabilized, following the route programmed in the flight management system. At 23:45, we were overflying the Alps. That's when Thompson noticed the first anomaly. "Rob, take a look at the ECAM," he said, pointing to the system warning display. The electronic centralized aircraft monitoring was showing a yellow message, HYDGSWIS low PR. Low pressure in the green hydraulic system. Probably a temporary fluctuation, I commented, but my eyes were already scanning all hydraulic parameters. The green system was one of the A380's 3 independent hydraulic systems responsible for controlling primary and secondary flight surfaces. For the next 15 minutes, the green system pressure remained slightly low, but within operational limits. We continued monitoring, but there was no need for immediate action. The A380 was designed with triple redundancy. Even with one hydraulic system completely inoperative, we would still have full control of the aircraft. At 0030, we were crossing the Mediterranean when the second warning appeared. "ELEC AC Bus 1 fault," announced the alert system. Thompson and I exchanged glances. An AC Bus 1 failure was more serious. The A380's electrical systems are complex, 2 generators per engine, plus the APU and RAT, ram air turbine, as emergency backup. AC Bus 1 fed critical systems on the left side of the aircraft. "Let's follow the checklist," I announced, grabbing the quick reference handbook. The next 20 minutes were dedicated to diagnosing and isolating the electrical failure. We managed to transfer the AC Bus 1 load to other systems, but this meant operating with reduced safety margin. Still, nothing that would compromise flight safety. At 01:15, we were overflying Egypt when everything began to fall apart. "Master caution," sounded the alert, and multiple red messages appeared on the ECAM simultaneously. ENG2 fail. HYD B.G SWIS low PR. ELEC MR gen not avail. Engine number 2 had failed completely, taking with it the 2 generators it powered, causing a cascade of failures in the B and green hydraulic systems. Suddenly, our triple redundancy had become a critical situation. "Mayday, mayday, mayday," I transmitted immediately. "Cairo Control, Qantas 001, experiencing multiple system failures, requesting immediate assistance." The controller's response came quickly. Qantas 001, Cairo Control, Roger Mayday, state your intentions. Meanwhile, Thompson was executing emergency procedures for engine failure. The A380 can fly perfectly on 3 engines, but the simultaneous loss of B and green hydraulic systems created a much more complex situation. We have aircraft control, I reported to Thompson, but with only the yellow hydraulic system operational, we need to reassess our options. The yellow system still gave us control of primary surfaces, but we lost redundancy. More critical, the brake system was compromised. Landing an A380 with limited hydraulic systems required a long runway and perfect conditions. Cairo Control, Qantas 001, we have lost engine 2 and multiple hydraulic systems. We need to divert to the nearest suitable airport with long runway. Qantas 001, Cairo Control, suggest diversion to Cairo International, runway 10 left 28 right, 4,000 meters available. 4,000 meters. That was marginal for an A380 under normal conditions, but with limited hydraulic systems, it would be extremely risky. We needed a better alternative. Cairo Control, request information on other airports with longer runways within our range. While awaiting the response, I made quick calculations. With 3 operational engines and the fuel we had, our range was limited. Dubai had a 4,547-meter runway, but was at the limit of our reach. Doha had 4,150 meters and was closer. Cairo Control, Qantas 001, requesting diversion to Doha. Runway 16 left 34 right. Qantas 001, Cairo Control, approved, turn left heading 090, descend and maintain flight level 250, contact Doha approach on 124.70. I began descent to FL 250, simultaneously reducing power on the 3 operational engines. The aircraft was behaving well, but I knew the real challenges would begin on approach. During descent, Thompson and I reviewed all emergency checklists, procedures for landing with limited hydraulic systems, performance calculations for contaminated runway, coordination with cabin crew for emergency preparation. Sarah, I called the chief flight attendant on the interphone, we need to prepare passengers for an emergency. It's not imminent, but I want everyone ready. Her voice came calm and professional. Understood, Captain. How much time do we have? Approximately 1 hour to Doha. We'll make a normal approach, but there's a possibility of runway evacuation. At 02:45, we established contact with Doha approach. The night was clear, excellent visibility, calm winds. At least weather conditions were in our favor. Doha approach, Qantas 001, flight level 250, inbound with emergency. Qantas 001, Doha approach, radar contact, descend to flight level 100. We have emergency services standing by. The descent to FL 100 was smooth. With 3 engines, the A380 still had more than enough power, but every procedure needed to be executed with absolute precision. There was no margin for error. At 03:15, on final approach to runway 16L, I received the final conditions. Qantas 001, Doha Tower, wind calm, runway 16, left cleared to land, emergency services in position. Cleared to land, runway 16 left, Qantas 001. The final approach of an A380 under normal conditions is already a spectacle. With limited systems, every movement needed to be perfect. The aircraft was heavy. We still had 40% of the initial fuel, and the brake systems were compromised. 1,000 feet, announced Thompson. Landing checklist complete, I confirmed. 500 feet. The lights of Doha's runway stretched ahead, a bright strip of 4,150 meters that I hoped would be enough to stop our wounded giant. 50 feet. I completely cut power to the 3 engines, and the A380 touched the runway smoothly. Even with limited hydraulic systems, the touchdown was perfect. The 22 main gear wheels absorbed the impact of 350 tons. Maximum reverse, I announced, engaging the reversers on engines 1 and 3. The aerodynamic brakes were fundamental. With the limited hydraulic system, we couldn't rely completely on wheel brakes. The spoilers rose automatically, destroying lift and forcing the aircraft's weight against the runway. Speed 100 knots, reported Thompson. 80 knots. 60 knots. At 0322, the A380 came to a complete stop on Doha's runway 16L, 3,200 meters after touchdown. We still had 1,600 meters of runway ahead, a comfortable margin that we all received with relief. Doha Tower Qantas 001 stopped on runway, requesting emergency services for inspection. Qantas 001 Doha Tower, Roger, emergency services proceeding to your position. For the next 30 minutes, firefighters inspected the entire aircraft. There were no signs of fire or critical leaks, but engine number 2 was clearly damaged. After inspection, we received clearance to taxi to the terminal. The taxi was slow and deliberate. With only one operational hydraulic system, every maneuver required extra care. But at 04 we were parked at the gate, and the 853 passengers began disembarking normally. In the following days, we learned that the initial failure was caused by a microscopic crack in a green system hydraulic line. This failure created abnormal pressure that, combined with an unrelated electrical failure, resulted in the cascade of problems we faced. The A380 remained in Doha for 2 weeks for repairs. A new engine was installed, all hydraulic systems were overhauled, and the aircraft returned to operational service. But that night over the Indian Ocean was etched in my memory as a reminder of the responsibility we carry. Commanding an A380 isn't just about technical knowledge or flight experience. It's about making decisions under pressure, coordinating a team of professionals, and never forgetting that 853 people trusted their lives to you. That night, our crew worked like a perfect machine, each person fulfilling their role to ensure everyone made it home. The A380 may be the world's largest passenger aircraft, but at the end of the day, it's just a machine. It's the people, pilots, flight attendants, air traffic controllers, mechanics, who make the difference between a safe flight and a tragedy. 3 months later, I returned to command the same A380 registration GXLEB on a London-Sydney route. This time, the flight was perfect. 21 hours of nominal operation without any significant failures, but I knew that if something went wrong again, I would be ready. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the size of the aircraft or the complexity of the systems. What matters is competence, preparation, and unwavering commitment to the safety of every person who trusts you to take them to the skies. That's the responsibility we carry every time we push the thrust levers forward and make an A380 defy gravity. And it's a responsibility I carry with pride, knowing I can make the difference between a normal flight and an emergency situation that could have ended very differently. When people ask me what it's like to command the world's largest passenger aircraft, I always answer, it's a responsibility that goes far beyond flight controls. It's about leadership, knowledge, preparation, and above all, about never forgetting that there are hundreds of people counting on you to make the right decisions. That night over the Indian Ocean, all the training hours, all the simulators, all the experience accumulated over 22 years of commercial aviation boiled down to a few critical moments where each decision could have changed the fate of 853 people. The A380 may be an impressive machine, but it's the people who make it something truly special. And that's what motivates me to continue flying, knowing that each takeoff is a new opportunity to demonstrate that commercial aviation is truly the safest way to travel. Because at the end of the day, no matter how many failures we may face or how many systems may fail, what matters is that as long as there are pilots committed to safety, trained to handle emergencies and prepared to make difficult decisions, people can continue trusting that they will reach their destinations safely. That's the promise we make every time we take the controls, and it's a promise I'll carry with me until the day I hang up my uniform for the last time. Sometimes when I'm on a routine flight, I look at the passengers through the cabin cameras and think about that night in Doha. Each of them has a story, a family waiting, dreams and plans for the future, and they all trusted me to take them safely to their destination. There's no feeling in the world that compares to that responsibility. And there's no greater satisfaction than knowing you made a difference in hundreds of people's lives, even though they may never know exactly what happened that night over the Indian Ocean. The A380 continues to be my favorite aircraft, not just because of its impressive size or advanced technology, but because it taught me that, no matter how big the challenge, There's always a solution if you stay calm, follow procedures, and above all, never forget that your responsibility goes far beyond flight controls. Every time I see an A380 taking off, whether as a pilot or passenger, I feel immense pride in being part of this industry. Because I know that somewhere in that cockpit, there are two pilots who carry the same responsibility I carry, and who will do everything in their power to ensure everyone gets home. This is the true magic of commercial aviation. It's not the machines that take us to the skies, it's the people who operate them. And as long as there are committed pilots, dedicated mechanics, and attentive air traffic controllers, the dream of flying will continue to be a safe reality for millions of people around the world. After all, flying isn't just about defying gravity. It's about connecting people, fulfilling dreams, and above all about the responsibility of ensuring that every journey ends safely. And that's a responsibility I continue to honor, flight after flight, takeoff after takeoff. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many flight hours you have or how many aircraft types you've commanded. What matters is that, with each new flight, you're prepared to face any challenge and make the right decisions, even when everything seems to be going wrong. That's the essence of being a commercial pilot. Being prepared for the unexpected, constantly training for situations we hope never to face, and never forgetting that each takeoff is a promise that we'll do everything in our power to ensure a safe landing. And it's that promise that motivates me to continue flying, knowing that each flight is a new opportunity to demonstrate that commercial aviation is, truly, a miracle of human engineering, operated by people dedicated to the safety and well-being of all who trust us to take them to the skies. I remember a passenger who approached me after our landing in Doha that night. He had sensed something was wrong during the flight, perhaps from the route change, perhaps from the extra time we spent checking systems. He simply said, "Thank you for bringing us safely home." In that moment, I fully understood why I chose this profession. It's not just about flying impressive aircraft or traveling the world. It's about the responsibility of caring for people who trusted their lives to you, and about the satisfaction of knowing you made a difference when it mattered most. The A380 may be retired in a few years, replaced by more efficient and modern aircraft. But the lessons I learned commanding this giant of the skies about responsibility, leadership, teamwork, and above all about never giving up when lives are at stake, those lessons will stay with me forever. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what aircraft you're commanding or how advanced the technology is. What matters is that behind all these complex systems, there are dedicated people who will do everything in their power to ensure every flight ends safely. And that's the true magic of aviation. It's not the machines that make flight possible, it's the people who operate, maintain, and control them that allow millions of people around the world to trust their lives to the skies every day. Every time you board an airplane, remember that there's an entire team of dedicated professionals ensuring your journey is safe. From the mechanics who inspect every component to the air traffic controllers who monitor every movement, everyone is working together so you reach your destination safely. This is the responsibility we carry, and it's a responsibility we honor with pride in every flight, every takeoff, every landing. Because we know that, at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than ensuring every person who trusts us gets home safely. And that's what motivates me to continue flying, knowing that each new day brings new opportunities to demonstrate that commercial aviation is, truly, a testament to the dedication and competence of thousands of professionals who make the skies a safe place for everyone. When I think about that night over the Indian Ocean, I don't just remember the systems that failed or the procedures we executed. I remember the people. Thompson focused on checklists, Sarah coordinating the cabin crew, air traffic controllers guiding us safely, Doha firefighters waiting for our arrival. Everyone working together, each playing their part, to ensure 853 people got home safely. And it's that cooperation, that shared dedication to safety, that makes commercial aviation what it is today, the safest way to travel. That's why, every time you see an A380 taking off, remember you're not just watching an impressive machine. You're watching the result of decades of technological evolution, operated by people who dedicated their lives to ensuring you can travel safely anywhere in the world. And that's a responsibility I'll continue to carry with pride, knowing that each flight is a new opportunity to demonstrate that when it comes to safety, there are no compromises. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than ensuring every person who trusts us reaches their destination safely. That's the promise we make every time we take the controls. And it's a promise we'll keep, flight after flight, forever. If you enjoyed this story about the challenges of commanding an A380, subscribe to Black Box so you don't miss the next tale from the skies. Let us know in the comments what type of aircraft you'd like to learn more about, and share this video with anyone else who has a passion for aviation. Until the next flight.